This is a photo that demonstrates how they recorded the sound. In the studio, they would play back the film on a screen with the symphony orchestra there. They would record all 7 channels simultaneously. They didn't like the idea of overdubbing. They realized each time that you make a copy of a copy of a copy, it goes down in quality. And one of the unique things about Cinerama was they used, if they didn't get the take right all the way through the piece, they would start all over and tape it again so they could get one perfect master and use the master to make the copies that went into the theaters, not make the master to make a copy to make another master to make copies for the theaters. No, they tried to get it as raw and close to the original as possible. You can see these microphones holding microphone number 1, number 2, 3, 4. Over here is 5. I believe that's either 6 or 7 up there at the top. In the auditorium, channel number 1 is behind the screen on this side. Channel number 2, number 3 is in the middle, number 4 is on that side, number 5 towards the edge. Channel 6 are those side speakers on that channel, on that wall. Channel number 7, the speakers on this side of the wall, and because it's only a part-time channel used for effects, channel number 8 are those speakers on the podium behind you. When the choir sequence comes on during This Is Cinerama, and it's actually filmed in black and white, they used it as a test piece of film to see how they could actually just have the sound show off. Can make the picture a little stationary, a little boring. I mean, watching a choir sing is not, anything for your eyes to get excited about, but listen to the sound quality. Before the choir comes on camera, you'll actually hear them coming down the aisles. You'll hear it coming out of channel 8 first, then 6 and 7, which will kind of bring the sound towards the room, then 1 and 5, and as they come on screen, the speakers in the center of the screen will start to fill, and you'll hear the sound. Really, it sounds like curtains coming down the hallway, curtains of sound as they fill the screen. This is a diagram they used to explain how the West was won, how action going from the left to the right side could actually make sync up with the action on the screen to sound like the sound is moving. This is the gigolo. Fred Waller invented many things. Anybody know that Fred Waller invented water skis? I think that's one of the most unusual things I've heard about Fred Waller. He was a big fan of flying, but he wasn't a fan of landing on the water, where they used to use the belly of the plane to kind of bounce down and be the friction to slow down the plane. Well, he figured if snow skis work so good on snow, why can't we put skis on the front of a plane to slow it down so you can get a plane to land on water? Or strap them to somebody's feet and pull them with a rope behind the boat. He was the guy who came up with that. And that's one of the reasons in This Is Cinerama, the second half, you get to see a lot of Cypress Gardens water skiing. He also was a part owner in Cypress Gardens. Well, one of the many things that he invented, I love it, Fred Waller's widow told John Harvey that if she needed a new refrigerator magnet, she could send Fred out to his workshop and he'd come back with a better refrigerator. He loved inventing things. Well, one of the reasons Cinerama works is the way it's filmed at such extreme angles, 48 degrees off center for the side cameras. Well, there was a problem. If you put these images up on screen, you put the 2 panels of light up side by side. If they don't touch, there's a black line literally between them. If the 2 images overlap, you see a white line because there's twice as much light in it. What he came up with was, and they called it a gigolo, is a microscopic comb that simply kind of jiggles at the edges of the picture, so when they bring the panels together, they kind of dovetail together and cut down on that amount of overlap and that fuzz. And that's the one flaw that Fred Waller wasn't able to get rid of. A lot of people don't realize when This Is Cinerama was invented, Fred Waller did everything he could to get it on screen. He would die within a year. In fact, it's kind of spooky that 3 days after the next year's Academy Awards, he was given an Academy Award for the invention of Cinerama. He would pass away, so he never got to stay around and see Cinerama Holiday or any of the other films, or be able to finally get rid of the gigolos. So this is the one thorn, I guess you might call it, that Cinerama's always carried, was that no one has been smarter than Fred Waller to figure out how to get rid of it, but this is also what makes it so it works, so it's more watchable today. This is actually a reproduction of a postcard that we used when This Is Cinerama opened. It was to give people the idea, and this is kind of what happens when you watch This Is Cinerama, the roller coaster sequence. You don't have the experience alone, you have it as a community group. It kind of feels like the whole room goes up and around those curves on the roller coaster. How many people here have taken that ride on the Cinerama roller coaster before? Don't you kind of feel like you need a little travel sickness medicine when that 90 seconds of whoa. It's quite amazing. This is the back of one of those postcards, and for some reason I can't get it to focus, but if you could see the theaters that they had it installed in 1954. One of them was in Cincinnati. That's where John got to go see it. I think he was like 17 years old when he went to see Cinerama for the first time. Uh-oh, I think it's taking a strike. Let's try it. What's a beautiful picture of a slide? I like that.
You know, when you were pushing that before, a red light came on and there it is.
Yeah, that's my laser pointer making sure that the battery works. Oh, there we go. Here's an ad from an early magazine. It's kind of a unique ad. I get a kick out of it. This gentleman's actually sitting in a theater seat. It's supposed to replicate what it's like when you go see the movie. You actually feel like you're riding down that roller coaster. This one didn't make a lot of sense to me. Yes, you too can go over Niagara Falls. Just buy a ticket. Come see Cinerama and we'll put you over the falls. In this ad, they're advertising Cinerama in the 6 cities it was installed in. This is, I think, late in '53. New York, Detroit, Philadelphia, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Washington. Yeah, yep. I think it's going on strike.
Larry,
yeah.
Is that double A or single A?
I think this is quadruple A. Let me fiddle with it. Well, pardon me while I try to tweak it. There'll be a brief interruption while we have technical difficulties. This diagram was actually a composite of part 1 of This Is Cinerama. You're in the La Scala Theater in Milan, Italy, and in the movie you'll see that there are actually 6 rows of balconies in this beautiful theater. I love this ad because this lady is obviously having a great time. I've never seen anybody levitate out of the seats yet, but again, quite a unique ad for a wonderful show. Okay, this is to promote the second half of This Is Cinerama. Again, the gentleman in his theater chair and the ladies out on their water skis. That's one of John Harvey's favorite parts. He gets to watch they were called aquanauts. You know, astronauts go into space, aquanauts go into the water. Here's a segment again from La Scala. You can see the giant Klieg lights that were used to brighten what was on stage. They had a heck of a time being able to shoot this sequence. They literally had to import lights from Germany and England to get enough light on stage for this sensitive Technicolor film to be able to capture the image. And it was quite a performance. I heard through the grapevine that some of the stuff that went into making this shot, they literally had to shoot it at like 9 o'clock in the morning. They didn't want to lose a performance because they had to, you know, shoot a little bit of film, change the lights, change the setup. But they advertised in the paper in Italy, if you want to be an American in a movie, show up in your Saturday evening clothes and we'll put you in a movie. So they packed the place with people, and get this, on stage, 900 people putting on the opera Aida. Here's some more of the Klieg lights. Great segment in this film are the trumpeters. They actually get into a battle. On the right, the trumpeters trying to outblow the trumpeters on the left. You get to hear some incredible spatial recording. Here's the Cinerama camera unbubbled up on stage to get that point of view where you actually feel like you're no longer part of the audience, but up on stage. The costumes and the colors are just amazing in this segment. Here they actually had to put the scaffolding into the swamp to get one of those you are there kind of points of view. In this segment, they cut the canoe in half to be able to get close enough to this model to be able to get a close-up of her. The unique thing about the Cinerama camera, they didn't have a zoom lens. To keep that focal plane, to keep everything in focus at the same time, if they wanted a close-up, they had to move the camera closer. But the unique thing is they got a hyper-reality that you can't even do with your own eyeballs. They could keep it in focus 18 inches in front of the camera while it's simultaneously 10 feet away and 100 feet away. If you don't believe me, just hold out. I love these little exercises. Everybody, please, hold your arm out in front of you and look at the point of your finger. Now, as you're staring at the point of your finger, everything behind it is out of focus. Okay, now look at the wall on the other side of your finger, and the finger is out of the focus. In Cinerama, both of them stay in focus. So while you're watching the movie, you might be caught up in watching the action. Look to the left and the right. You'll be amazed to see a lot of things are in focus all over the screen. Even the dog behind the curtain over there, yeah. Now, when I first saw Cinerama, I was 7 years old. I went to see it at the Daybell Cinema here in Dayton. And of all things, I didn't know this at the time, one of the projectionists was John Harvey. We didn't get to meet, but we were actually in the same theater at the same time. My parents were so blown away, like a lot of people, with seeing Cypress Gardens. Business literally went through the roof for Cypress Gardens down in Florida when this travelogue / commercial ran around the world telling people, you know, here's this You Are There process, and we're going to take you out on the water skis so you can see and feel what it's like. Well, our family planned and went to that next summer to Florida on a vacation, and we joined the throngs sitting on the shore, and it wasn't as fun. When you're sitting on the shore, it's not nearly as fun as when you're in Cinerama in the action. One of the things Fred Waller suggested that they do with Cinerama before he passed away, and John Harvey knows that, and a lot of people recognize this as a brilliant idea. What if the Cinerama camera started out at home, got into a limousine, went down to Broadway in New York, got out of the car, went underneath the marquee. When I went to the ticket booth, you could actually see people buying the ticket from the camera's point of view. Went into a Broadway theater, sat down in the audience, the curtain opens up, the camera gets up on stage. What if you could see Broadway plays in Cinerama? Broadway would no longer be limited to New York, but could be around the world in a Cinerama theater. That's why Michael Todd, who was working for Fred Waller at that time, left and got with, was it American Optical, and developed Todd A.O. And what was the first film they would bring out in Todd A.O.? Oklahoma, a huge Broadway hit to try to make you feel like you're actually part of the play. And if you've seen the film in 70 millimeter especially, you know it works. It's amazing. And if they could have used the Cinerama equipment, it even would have been better. In this slide, you get to see Paul Mance's custom-built B-25. They actually cut out the nose and the front of the plane so they could put, there it is, the Cinerama camera right in the front to be able to photograph the action and not be able to see any of the plane. However, there are some segments when the plane is flying through the clouds and you look down, you can see the shadow of the plane on the ground. It's kind of interesting. Paul Mance was one of those great unsung heroes of Hollywood. He was an aerial specialist before he was decorated in World War II. He actually made some movies back in the 30s. I saw a James Cagney movie made in like 1933. And if you read Gloria Stewart's book, you know, the lady who was in Titanic, some of you might have seen that movie. Well, Gloria Stewart, in her autobiography, talks about how Paul Mance took her up on a plane for her very first trip and taught her how much he doesn't like doing loop-the-loops. An incredible man. A lot of people don't know how many movies he's connected with because he was never listed in the credits. But he would give up his life in shooting a special sequence in Flight of the Phoenix. But Cinerama was lucky enough to have him do most of the aerial photography in all of their films. This is the very first outdoor Cinerama theater. This was the United States government went to Cinerama Incorporated and wondered if they could put it at the World's Fair in Damascus. This is where they actually built the first outdoor cinema. They said tickets were such a premium to get in to see this show that people were literally being threatened in alleyways, you know, hey, give me your tickets or I'll knife you kind of thing, to see Cinerama, and that people were to climb trees on either side of the theater to try to look over the walls to see what was going on with this Cinerama. This photo, we believe, is from the original installation in Broadway, at the Broadway Theater in New York. They could literally put up the screen in different sections all at the same time because it was one ribbon at a time.